I don't know. Good question. I believe in something called a higher self. I believe that, you have a spirit and you have someone that if you listen to it and you're open to it. But I think also this is where vulnerability is power, right? So for me, religion, they all have good intentions. I believe I just started asking myself, why am I continuing to smoke if it's giving me this terrible energy of anxiety?
Being born in the UK has given him enough reasons to be living his life from a place of gratitude. After partying and smoking lots of weed in his university years, he realized that something was not right. He graduates with his degree in finance, banking, and economics, and then goes to get a job in central London. But he was still not feeling it and decided to leave the job and travel around the world. And during his travels, he discovered the art of meditation. And ever since, Jack has been doing the self-work to become who he truly was all this time. A few months later, he's gone and scaled an e-commerce business to 6 figures under 9 months. But realizing that he was still not doing something from pure passion and love, Jack has decided to become a coach and help other people discover and improve themselves. This guy is a kind and loving soul, and we've had an absolutely incredible chat together. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, Jack Mccloskey.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to The Grateful Show. Today, we have the honor to talk to Jack Mccloskey. How is it going, man?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, as I told you, I just hit a workout and now my endorphins are really, really high. So looking forward to our talk.
It's good to hear. And well done on the pronunciation, bro. You smashed that. Not many
Really?
people do. Yeah, you nailed it, bro.
Yeah, thank you so
Absolutely
much.
nailed it.
Thank you so much. What are you grateful for today? Let's break the ice.
Oh, so many things. One thing I always start with gratitude is always the basics, man. The food, shelter, and water, because not everybody has that. So as soon as I remember that, I feel grateful, and the rest of my day is filled with gratitude. But apart from that, my body as well. I'm getting more gratitude for my body.
Do you feel like you are grateful the most part of the day, or you have like to remember yourself to acknowledge the small things, like you said, that you have, and you don't have to take them for granted?
It's definitely a conscious thing. I think if you live in a pure state of gratitude, then you will be a very high conscious soul. Like the Mother Teresa's of the world. They're constant. Yeah. Their whole energy is gratitude. So for me, being honest, it's a conscious thing of sitting back and being like, so every morning, as soon as my feet touch the floor, I say 3 things I'm grateful for. It's a new thing I'm doing, trying to build that habit. Because the more thoughts of gratitude you have, the more you're operating in gratitude.
For how long you've been doing this?
What's that, sorry?
Sorry, for how long you've been doing this with the 3 things that you are grateful for?
Consistently, probably for a couple months. But so it's a new thing. But before that, it's always, I can't remember what podcast I heard it off, but it's been something that I've been aware of. And gratitude is something that from a young age, my mum and dad I come from a very loving family, so they've always expressed gratitude. So I think in that kind of sense, it's always been a part of me, but I'm trying to make it more of a conscious day-to-day thing. What about you guys? Have you guys got any gratitude tips for me? Or
well,
wear a hat, buy the hat.
As you are already doing, I think the best, and it seems simple and like not as significant, but I feel that so many people are underrating the power of actually just writing 3 things they're grateful for. And the most important thing when you do so is to actually have like a true intent. Because if you're just writing like, yes, I'm grateful 100%. For my family, I'm grateful for my health, and I'm grateful for the sunny day that is today, well, that's not going on a deep level at all. So the deeper you go, brother, and like the more detailed and specific you are each day, the better. But Jack, with that said, I just want to go back into your story, because I know you kind of changed in the last couple of years. I listened to your podcast, and let's go back to like whenever you consider that is worth mentioning, maybe before uni or maybe right when you started uni, or why did you go to the uni in first place, whatever you feel like it's more suitable.
Sure. We'll start with uni. I went to uni and I studied economics, finance and banking. Now, if you know me now, you'll know that economics, finance and banking is at the complete other end of the spectrum. Now, a reason for how long has that been? Like, gosh, 6 years. And throughout that journey, I've gained more consciousness, awareness, and all that beautiful stuff. I can now look back and see that I chose economics, finance and banking. One, because it was my best subject, but two, also because subconsciously I wanted to be an investment banker to impress my father, who's a successful businessman. So I had all this going on subconsciously. It's very common for young men to want to impress their father and live up to their shoes. So without going too deep, too quick, I just sort of throw that in there. That's the reason for that. University, I had a good time. I can't lie to you. I partied a lot, a lot. I was diving into different realms. I was taking different drugs, and I was kind of lost, but it was, looking back on it, I wouldn't change it, because now I am the man who I am because of that. 3 years go by. I get a job in the city, in sales. I save enough money. I go traveling for a year. And when I go traveling, it's a beautiful thing, man. I'm not sure. Have you guys been traveling? And
Yeah, quite a bit in Europe.
Yeah, so it just opens up, new experiences. You go and see these beautiful things. You meet beautiful people, and you just take in. Considering you're working in a busy London day to day, and then you go and travel, it's just a whole different life experience that you have. And it opens up your mind and your spirit to new possibilities. And that's where I went and lived with the monks, which is where my true awareness started, because it was like waking up at 4 a.m, meditating till 6 till 7 breakfast, 7 till 12 meditation, 12 till 1 lunch, and 1 till 10 meditation. As you can imagine, that's pretty intense. And it's a silent retreat, so you don't say a word. So it's just you and your thoughts the whole time, which is amazing, because you get to know the way that you think and the way that your computer software is working. And then from then, meditation has been a massive part of my life. I do transcendental meditation now twice a day. And then after traveling, I worked in Australia for a bit. I then started an e-commerce business, which I took to 6 figures in about 9 months. And throughout that whole time, I was reading about spirituality, the ego, the way the universe works, the law of manifestation, opening up, started leading with my heart more, that kind of thing, which is why I've now have a coaching business, because it allows me to work from my heart. Like if you get a sense of who I am now, I love people, I love these chats, I love interaction. Where e-commerce is like me sat behind a desk looking at data, trying to like build relationship with Chinese suppliers, and it's just, it doesn't match where my genius zone is.
I just want to acknowledge you first and foremost for the diversity that you just had in the last couple of years. But like for our audience to understand, because like for someone listening, they would be like, hold on. So he was in sales. He was very money oriented, very career oriented. And then suddenly he just went and started meditating for 2 hours with the monks. What happened? Like, what was the break? Was it a series of events that made you choose this path, or like what happened?
I don't know. Good question. I believe in something called a higher self. I believe that, you have a spirit and you have someone that if you listen to it and you're open to it, humans, we only see 3 dimensions. There's 10 dimensions out there, right? So if you start opening up these possibilities, that there's something else out there, I start leaning into your feelings rather than hiding away from that kind of thing. Things start to happen. And I think that was the case for me. So once I finished uni, I knew I wanted to go traveling, but I knew I wanted to get a job that pushed me, because I've always been ambitious. I always like pushing myself. So that's why I got sales, because it was cold calling, putting me out of my comfort zone that way. But I knew I was going traveling. So I quit that job to go traveling, which was always my main focus. And then going back to the higher self thing, I think something was pulling me towards the living with the monks. I've never meditated in my life before. My mum's quite spiritual, so maybe that all plays a role subconsciously. So yeah, I just got pulled to it really. I met someone who wanted to go as well. It just all worked out. And then I went there really. I wish I had a clear-cut answer, but all I can put it down to is that something led me to that place and pulled me to that place.
Most probably there were like a lot of small things combined, and then you just did it. Can you please let our audience know what's the difference between religion and spirituality?
Sure, that is the question, really, isn't it? For me, religion, they all have good intentions. I believe there's obviously a lot of people get, you know, their own fears and insecurities with religion, and it can go very wrong, but it can also go very right. And I think the difference is that they all point to one source, right? They all point to this greater energy force, cosmos, whatever you want to call it. But the way that they have been interpreted has been different, because of course we're humans. The way that we interpret things would be different. The way we try and spread that message would be different. The way that people hear that message is trying to be spread would be different. So, you know, that in itself, there's so many external factors that can change the story of a religion. That being said, that I think all religions are beautiful, but they point to essentially one God. You know, that's my take on it. Do I know that's right? No, I don't.
I wanted to ask you and actually tell you and then ask about your opinion on this. There was some sort of theory that the whole like religion spectrum has basically started throughout our evolution as humans around the point when we discovered psychedelic substances. So basically what the theory is saying is that we encountered those natural mushrooms, or like call them whatever substances, and people trying these things, they kind of had a different understanding of what they used to call reality, and through those things they created religion. What's your take on that?
Well, I don't know. It makes sense because obviously psychedelics. I've tried mushrooms before actually, but that was when I was partying abroad, so it wasn't really the same. If I was to do it now, it'd be a whole different experience. I haven't actually dipped into them. That being said, I'm sure it will at some point. But before getting sidetracked, thinking about being high on mushrooms, I think I'm not sure, to be honest, because let's say like Jesus or Buddha. Do I think that they would have done psychedelics? Who knows? But I feel like psychedelics were more in the tribal areas of like South America. And I don't know if what religion, has any religion started there or?
No, I think most of them have started around Asia, if I'm not wrong. Bogdan?
Yeah. And I think these characters that I said, Jesus Christ, Buddha, I mean, they are all enlightened souls that have just been the chosen one, let's say, to channel pure knowledge from a different realm. But then psychedelics can also give you that experience and that touch, but they don't keep you in that forever and generate that same energy that you just radiate it 24/7. So my honest answer is what a question. I have no idea. I have no idea.
You mentioned before that Buddha or Jesus were the chosen ones. Do you believe in faith in this case?
100%. Yeah, I have faith. And this is what I always say to people, which blows my mind. Like, if I gave you the task to use no social media and spread a message where you can choose what message and it has to go worldwide, like what message would you spread? And what are the chances of it even leaving your town, let alone going across the whole world? So whether you believe in it or not, he was talking about something that people believed in that had no idea in. So it's kind of like, I feel people, I do the same. I listen to people. Have you guys heard of like Eckhart Tolle? And
no,
sorry, who?
Eckhart Tolle. He wrote The Power of Now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so him, and let's just say Tony Robbins. You guys heard of Tony Robbins?
Yeah, of course.
So a lot of people go to his things, and I believe that sometimes they don't even know why they're there, and sometimes they probably don't even understand what Tony is actually saying, but something in them does understand. Something has brought them there, and I believe that's a soul, and I believe that's the same way that when Jesus was here, when Buddha was here, when Krishna was here, they are saying something that no one can really understand, but there's something can understand. And that's why their message spreads, because they're speaking from something that is true. Because otherwise, if I tried to spread the word about something, you know, like a random message, people would just be like, this guy's crazy. But it wasn't the case. It spread through millions and millions, and it's still around how long ago was that? And it will be around for the rest of mankind. So like somewhere in there, whether you believe it or not, there has to be some sort of truth. And I'm not saying you have to have faith at all, but I'm saying let's just be open to the fact that maybe what he was saying was true. Because I'm all for radical open-mindedness, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Everything starts with you being open-minded, of course. But I just wanted to ask you, what is your biggest goal? First, like career-wise, and then like life-wise, let's put it this way.
Yeah, great question. Biggest goal which sprung to mind in terms of not like money orientated or not like a specific goal wise, is maybe it's just to have an impact and essentially raise the consciousness of humanity, in the sense that I can bring love to those that maybe haven't had it as much as me, to improve their life, you know, go to schools and speak to schools and give them the truth and knowledge bombs that maybe they have never had access to. So just raising the level of consciousness would be a good start, I believe.
Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to actually share or help, let's put it this way, people in this way, or and not the other way?
I just think it's just something that I'm called to do. You know, I've got a big heart, and I want to, and also I love this stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love this talk already. You guys have hit me some questions that I don't even know really what to say, but it gets me thinking, and I love reading about stuff. I love being better. You know, the universe is expanding. Everything we see is expanding. In 1910, there was the first billionaire. Is it the Rothschild? And now, or whoever it is. And now there's over 2,000 billionaires. Why? Because that's expanding as well. So if I can expand my creativity, my knowledge, and give that out to other people to expand their creativity, I believe that's kind of how the universe works. And that's what I'm here to do. Same way that in a PT, if you're making someone in better shape, you're making them better, you're expanding, you know, and it's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Just wanted to acknowledge you for this, because first of all, you got to have some courage and, like you said, a big heart in order to actually want to follow this career or to follow this life, this path in your life.
100%. But I mean, that being said as well, I didn't know I wanted to do this. Like you guys, like you acknowledged earlier, I've tried a lot of stuff. You know, Gary Vee always says it. He said, just go try stuff, man. You can be 20 and fail for 10 years and you're only 30 and you can just go try stuff. Go try in sales. Okay, you shit your pants. You're shaking like a shitting dog. All right. Maybe sales isn't for you, but you learned something. Okay, cool. Go try and be a nursery teacher. Okay, you like it, but it's not bringing enough income and you want to, okay, cool. So now you know you like kids and you hate sales. And now, do you know what I mean? And it's like, you start here and then it's like boom, 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 until you find something and you're like, oh, I'm going ham on this motherfucker. Am I allowed to swear on this one?
Yeah, of course. Feel free. Feel free.
Sure.
I just wanted to tell you that when I'm speaking to you, it feels like I'm watching a video from Russell Brunson. I don't know why I portray you as being him, but I feel like you have some sort of like a similar way of speaking and like sharing your thoughts on things.
Russell who? Sorry, Brand or Branson?
The one with the tattoos.
Russell Brand,
The one with the long hair.
Yeah.
People if I should have worn my hair down, bro, you could have said interview with Russell Brand.
We can do that actually.
Yeah, well, no, I appreciate that. I take that as a compliment. He is a super wise soul. I mean, sometimes when he speaks and he says all these big words, I'm like, I have no idea what you said, but I like it.
It happens to me as well.
Jack, I was listening to your podcast, and by the way, it's going to be linked in the show notes for our audience to check it out. You were mentioning that at some point you became not necessarily addicted to weed, but like it became a routine for yourself and it became normal to consume weed. And then suddenly something clicked in you and you were like, hold on, why am I doing this? How did that happen? Like, was there some sort of like calling for you to quit it, or did you just want to do it just for the sake of it?
Yeah, another great question. You've done your due diligence. I love it. So this is like I mentioned, touched on earlier, when you lean into your emotions, right? So I was smoking weed every day and I was loving it, boy, you know, watching David Attenborough, you know, sitting there like, wow, this is, for 2 years of doing it every day, like 2 years of drinking every day, everyone was pretty aware that that would fuck you up, right? But smoking it, it's like, it's kind of because it's more chilled, it doesn't seem like big effects. And I wasn't that aware of what it was doing to my lungs. I think now, like, if I was to smoke or be around smokers, I can feel it a bit more. But going back to the main point, sorry, is that after 2 years, and 2 years, that first year partied a lot, doesn't really, the grade doesn't really matter. It doesn't actually count for anything. And then second year, I got by leaning on other people. People liked me. My friends were very intelligent at this. I made friends with them and they kind of brought me. But then when they had a placement, and it was my third year, and this is me looking back on it, and I was smoking and I was getting so anxious. And then it got to, you know, I was like, I just started asking myself, why am I continuing to smoke if it's giving me this terrible energy of anxiety, which is at the time was a horrible feeling, tight in my chest. So I started asking the question. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop them. If I'm feeling this way and it's bringing this much, like, because I feel this stuff heavy in my chest. And then I stopped. And now looking back on it, I believe again that if I didn't have that emotion, that feeling of anxiety, I would have kept smoking weed. I probably wouldn't have got as good grade as I got. My final year was very active. I was going to the gym a lot. I was trying new sports, and I was really like starting to build the foundations of who I am. The character of me was starting to shine. But that was only by leaning into the emotions. And that's what I touch on now, is like, if you are feeling anxious, this is where I touch on your spirit, your soul, your higher self. Who knows where it come from? Maybe it's trying to tell you something. Yeah. You know, it's like, how do you hear these stories of when someone's walking down the street and they get anxious and suddenly they know something, they run away and they escape danger. And it's like, it's kind of that primal fear, because we have no like saber-toothed tigers walking down the street or anything. It's kind of like, okay, maybe I can use this for my advantage rather than being a victim to it.
Exactly. Was it hard for you to quit smoking?
Honest answer, no, because like I said, the emotion of this anxiety was so intense in my chest. And like, for me, I've always been someone who's been pretty present, like in the moment. So when I was smoking weed, I was present, I was just having a laugh. But then it got to a point when I was smoking and feeling all this anxiety, then my thoughts would change. I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling this again. And it all plays a part. And then it took me out of the moment. So for me, it was like, rather than smoking, it was just like, either I can continue smoke and be anxious and out of the moment, or I can just stop.
Yeah.
So I think when you have something that's weighing that much, it's quite easy to stop.
How was your social life before you stopped and after? Was it impacted by the fact that you had to quit smoking with, or?
Massively, yeah, massively. I mean, I was happy staying in smoking weed with the same boys who are my boys at uni, so that was fine. But yeah, massively, man, because it's just that, if anything, it's also, you can spark up a jet at 5 p.m. before you know it's 2 a.m. You're like, what? Where's this time gone? And that's like, what is that? 9 hours of time that's just flown by. So it's like, when you stop something that's taking up so much time, and you start thinking, oh, how else can I use this time wisely? Or not even wisely, like, just what else can I do while I'm at uni? I can go out more, or I can play this sport, or someone wants to go to the pub. Okay, yeah, I'll be there, because I'm not going to stay in and smoke. But I mean, if you hear this and you're smoking with a lot of weed and you are getting anxious, then definitely listen to that. But also, I'm not one to judge. I believe that was all part of my journey, and I've learned very profound lessons from it.
If you were to look back now, thank you very much. If you were to like look back now at how you were feeling back then, would you say that you kind of leaned into weed as an escape for some of your like insecurities, or was it just for pure pleasure?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't, like, for me, I'd snapped my ACL in first year. So then, I mean, I was smoking a lot of weed before then. So honestly, I don't think it was. Now, that's not to say that I haven't done that. You know, I used to take a lot of Class A drugs. I used to do a lot of cocaine working in the city, and it was, now that I'm in a better place, I don't do drugs anymore. So is there a positive correlation there? I would guess so. You know, the more wounds that we have, the more we probably try and cover them up, especially if we're not conscious and aware. So to answer your question, it's the reason that I'm struggling to say that is because uni, I believe, is about having fun, and I did have a lot of fun smoking the weed, so there is like no regrets there, and I don't consciously have awareness of the fact, was I smoking to cover up wounds? That being said, was I partying and doing cocaine and sleeping with women to cover up wounds? 100%. So yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you again
Does
for
that make
sharing
sense?
it with us. Yeah. Thank you again for sharing it. I just wanted to change a little bit the subject and ask you, what experience are you the most grateful for?
Wow. What popped up was the monk sanctuary. I think like long term, like being a coach, I know the power of awareness and consciousness to everything. To like, the way that you react to something, the thoughts that you're having, the energy that you feel, like all of it comes down to consciousness and awareness, which meditation is one of the best tools to enhance that.
Yeah.
So going to that sanctuary, which gave me a sense of peace, if anything else, I didn't necessarily have all this awareness suddenly, because it's a ongoing practice, right? You don't just spend 4 days in football camp and you're a professional footballer.
Yeah.
But that in itself set up my journey for meditating, which has brought me to more and more awareness every year. So that and my birth, probably. Otherwise I wouldn't be here.
Fair enough. Very good answer.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, for someone who, for example, is listening and they don't meditate, what's the starting point? What do you think is the best starting point?
Good question. I like that, because it sets up your audience for value. And this is, again, it's so important. It's like, lay the foundations. How do you build a house? You have to lay strong foundations. How do you lay those foundations? Well, you don't go all in, guns blazing, 7 meditations next week, because guess what? You're likely, even if you do 6, you'll only remember the one that you don't do, and then you'll feel guilt and shame, and they're very, very, very low levels of consciousness, and they'll make you feel like shit. And that's not what we want. We just want to give you more awareness. So start small, and I'm talking 5 minutes. I set my clients 5 minutes next week, 10 minutes next week, and then we could jump on another call. How was that? Yeah, good. Do you want to do 5 minutes again next week? Just do it for a month. Like, that small. And then next month, do 2. And then just see if you can build it slowly. Maybe you'll do 1, but 10 minutes now. And then once you start building it slowly and it doesn't become a chore, and then you start seeing slight benefits to it, and then it's kind of like the meditation is pulling you towards it, rather than you having to force yourself to do it.
I was just about to ask you, because I feel like it's going to be correlated with this question. What are the 3 things that people can do to be happier? Most probably meditation is first, because obviously you are more present and you actually have the real taste of the world. But what else do you think that people should do to be more happy?
Exactly as your hat say, gratitude is definitely one. Practice gratitude. Like, and like you said, make sure when it's not just saying it. Like, I can say, oh yeah, I'm thankful for the sky, but like, feel that shit. Like, feel it. Like, and once you get that feeling of gratitude, and continue to do it until you do feel it, because once you feel it, you'll realize the power of that feeling, and that's where the beauty comes in. And then you can practice that. Also, the relationship with yourself, which is essentially down to thoughts. You know, you are the observer behind your thoughts, but so many of us today in this world think that our brain is us, our thoughts is us. But I'm telling you now, you're the observer, and once you realize that, you can start retraining your software, which is your brain, to start thinking more positively and start having a relationship with yourself. And rather than you saying, oh, I'm no good, you can start saying, oh, I am good. Or
exactly.
Even ask yourself better questions. Like, how many of us do something, like we play a sport we've never played before, and they're like, why am I so bad at that? And then guess what your brain computer does? It comes up with all the reasons that you're bad at that. Oh, you've got no hand-eye coordination. Oh, you've got no confidence in yourself. But if you start bringing the awareness to it, you can ask yourself a question like, how do I get better at that? And then your computer and then your brain will come up with all the answers of how you get better than that. Oh, well, you can try, I don't know, but it will come up with answers, right?
Yeah.
Whatever sport that is. So
Jack, thank you very much for sharing those tips. I just wanted to like lay down a concept, an idea that has been kind of frustrating me in the last 2 years. And that's the fact that society nowadays is portraying an idea towards ourselves, especially the young generation, that it's cool and it's savage to hide your emotions, to become emotionless. Like there are actual songs from like major hip hop artists. They are promoting the fact that you should be ignoring your emotions. If you feel tired, you should just have a coffee and just keep going. If you feel like someone hurt you, just either don't tell them or just ghost them, or like don't tell anyone how you feel. And I feel like maybe this is one of the reasons for which us as people nowadays feel so detached from one another. I think there's even a book called Lost Connections that I highly recommend our audience to listen. But what's your take on that? Why do you think that's the case, or is it the case?
I definitely think it's the case. I think what my work is trying to make that not the case, especially for, I mean, the fact that us three men can have chats like this is a good sign that we're heading, some of us at least are heading in the right direction. But I think also this is where vulnerability is power, right? So when you squash these emotions down, you think, because you haven't got the awareness and consciousness, that squash them down, oh, they're no longer there. But, sorry, excuse me, knowing what I know and about energy and vibrations and how the universe operates is that they're still there, because you have no awareness in them. They're still dictating your life. So you could have a story of, you could have gone through child trauma. Let's just say, doesn't have to be necessarily physical, which if it has, will have a big effect. I'm sorry if it has been, but let's just say you have this story of you not being good enough based on the way that your dad treated you and the way he spoke to you. So now subconsciously you've got this, wherever you go, your computer is run on you not being good enough. So you step up into an interview, it's like you're not going to do as well as you can because you're not saying you're good enough. So I don't know if I'm going off track, but by feeling your emotions and feeling like, oh, this situation made me feel this way, and getting curious about that. Okay, why do I feel that way? Oh, it's because I don't feel good enough. Why do you not feel good enough? I'm not sure really. We'll keep going. Why do you not feel good enough? And you start digging into these feelings of sadness, and once you start digging into them, you can pull out the root, and then there's less sadness energetically in your body, so you're operating from a higher perspective. You know, those people that walk into a room and you're like, whoa, like they've just got something about them. Well, I tell you, that's probably because they've done the fucking work, and now 100%. They're operating from a higher frequency.
100%. And I feel like I'm not sure about your story and how you managed to like get over that, but I can definitely say with myself that I still run through those patterns of like not being good enough. And like whenever it happened in the past, I used to be like, yeah, whatever. It was my ego dictating me that I can just ignore it. Whilst now I'm like, why am I trying to please this person? Why can I just tell them that I don't want to do this or I don't like them? But it's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's it. And like, I've done the work, and I can say this because I've done it. And that's why I hope that you can hear that. But there's still work to be done. And there's still times that I'm human, and that's the case, bro. We're all humans. And this is once you dip in spirituality, it's kind of like, or dip into outside of the way that your brain works. It kind of is like, sometimes you forget, when you have the awareness, you forget that you're also just human. And it's good to give yourself permission that when you're not feeling good enough, that's okay. You are human. There's all of us can't operate, but if from the person that I know that you are, is that if you're consistently and persistently trying to pursue your potential, and that you're not good enough now, we're all very young lads, in 20 years time, that will be a lot less. But it takes work, I don't know if it ever gets to a point where it's like everything is all daisies, roses and daisies. Is that the word?
I think so. Yeah.
Or something like that. But
what else can people do to be more aware about their mental health?
See if you have any similar pattern. See what you see in your parents or the people that you grew up in, and see if what you see in them you recognize in yourself.
the environment.
Sometimes that's what we do. We project. We're like, oh, I hate that about them. And then you realize that you do it with your friends and you're like, shit, because you learn everything from your parents. The same with pain. Like, this is the thing, as a kid, you're so beautiful and innocent that if your mum or dad screams at you for something, they're like, oh, you're an idiot, you're stupid for this. They're effectively saying that from a place of pain, right? If they were from a place of love, they wouldn't scream like that, they wouldn't shout. But then that pain energetically goes into that kid, and that kid absorbs that pain and picks up the same pain habits. So just by recognizing that that's a pain in your parent, and then you realizing it in yourself, you can kind of forgive yourself and then forgive your parent, which in itself elevates your levels of consciousness and the way that you can start operating from a happier place. But that takes work as well. We went quite deep there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth mentioning to our audience the fact that I was actually having this discussion with my mom the other day, and I was telling her how I'm trying to recognize and like understand why I do certain things a certain way. And it's purely because of what happened to me in my childhood. And she was like, you had an amazing childhood. Like, there was nothing wrong with you or your environment. And I'm like, look, I'm pretty much sure of that. But at the same time, maybe there were things outside of your control or my dad's control that happened to me. And that's,
100%.
and that dictated the way I saw myself, my self-identity. And I was listening to this book the other day called Psycho-Cybernetics. And basically it's preaching, the author is preaching the fact that it all starts with a self-identity. If you don't know that self, how can you expect to like even improve or change anything about you?
100%, bro. And that's where it's like the programming of your brain and stories that you're telling yourself, irrespective of your childhood. A child trauma isn't necessarily traumatic in a sense. It's like you were in a car crash, or it can be that one older kid that you looked up to turned around and said, you're looking really chubby and fat. And then that, as a beautiful, innocent child, you've taken that, built up this story that you're fat and chubby. Maybe if you weren't even that chubby back in the day. And now maybe that pain in you is why that you don't go to the gym as many times as you want, because you believe that you're fat and chubby. And that's where you need to start reprogramming your brain, which isn't you. It's just a bloody crazy computer that we need to get a hold of. So yeah, I think that's great. One, thank you for sharing, but two, that you have the awareness that that's even the case. And I want to make it sure to the audience that whether you had an amazing childhood like I did, you're still going to have shit that you're going to have to work through. And if you want a life full of fulfillment, you've got to work through it. Yeah,
definitely. 100%. Jack, you have mentioned before that you are a big reader. What books, I don't know, I don't want to ask you for a number, but what books would you recommend to our audience?
So I'm someone who's going after it all. Like, I'll put that out there. I believe that you should. If we just look at it from an energy standpoint, money is energy, right? If you provide a good services, you provide a good product, it will come back to you. So we'll do one for each category, shall we? My goal as a coach is always to bring a fulfillment in every aspect, right? You don't want the money, but then you lack a sense of happiness, because then what's the point of life? So finance, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that in itself gives you a beautiful outlook on how the poor think and how the rich think right next to each other, which allows you to see, okay, which one am I and which one do I want to be? Number two, in terms of spirituality, which I don't like saying spirituality because people immediately like spirituality. Oh no, that's some cuckoo shit. Yeah, it's like as soon as I say God, which I try and avoid, people are like, oh, a big guy in the sky, no way. Yeah. But so I'm just gonna ask you keep an open mind. I'm not saying you have to believe, like you can decide that for, but just open your mind to something bigger out there. So spirituality, let's say Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. That's a good starting point. And that talks about essentially the ego and how if you operate from your brain all the time, you're never truly present, which means that you can never really enjoy the beautiful things in life. And then what else is there? Personal development. Oh, there's so many. The one that started for me for cold calling, which helped with fear, because fear is very real and it's not necessarily a bad thing, is Susan Jeffries' Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I remember reading that on the way to work, and that is where I started loving books, because it was like, you know, when you just get that book, you're like, this is the perfect book for me in the perfect time, and that's where the addiction comes, because you're like, oh my god, I was just trying to figure out all these answers, and I figured it out in 2 weeks through this book. And then from there you're like, shit, where are all the answers? Like and one more quick, because I just love it, is The Alchemist, which is like it's a story, so it's interesting to read, but some of the lessons in it, my word, are so profound, that even if you don't even know what the profound lessons are in it, because you're not ready for them, you will still enjoy the story. And this is why I love books. Sorry if I'm rambling, but I love going on a rampage. But even if you don't necessarily find the lessons that I may see in a book, you're still taking in data, which is effectively reshaping the way that your brain has an outlook on life. So whether you actually understand the core message of the book, it's still opening up it's giving you new data that you wouldn't have every day to your life, because we have 60,000 thoughts a day. 95% of them are the same as yesterday. So by reading a book, you have different thoughts. By having different thoughts, you have a different day. By having a different day, have a different week, and so on and so on. So
leading to a different life, right?
Yeah, because if you're only watching the television and whatever news are on that day, you're not gonna get anywhere.
Exactly.
No, and what sort of energy and information are you absorbing? Just negative. One book can shift your state, which could be could be the seed of your greatness.
Jack, I wanted to first of all acknowledge you once again for sharing everything and what you've been through. And I wanted to ask you what happened between the period that you were working in central London and then you just managed to build up a huge e-commerce business. How did you get to do that?
So I went traveling, and then I stopped off in Australia and worked. And then it was a case of going home, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go all in. Because when I was in Bali, I met loads of digital nomads, which are people that work on their laptop and build businesses. So again, is that a seed in my head? And I've got a good friend who is absolutely killing the game. And he was back then, but now he's just skyrocketed it. But then these are seeds in my head. So I was like, if he can do it, I can do it. So I went home, just took all my savings that I had and just invested every penny into it. Made some good money, but then reinvested, and also lost money and got myself in debt, and then had to pull myself out and that kind of thing. I don't know. Did I go off tangent there? Or it's just, how did it change?
Well, basically, how did it change? How did you get to like start doing coaching from there, from like the e-commerce and like more analytical stuff? How did you get into like touch with your like true calling, let's say?
Reading helped, meditation helped again. And then honestly, the only way I can explain it is that my head was stuck with e-commerce, because I was like, your plan is that you're going to make this much money and it's going to be automated, and then you can go and I've always wanted to be a school speaker, and you can go and make your impact this way, because it's always been in the front of my mind or my heart to make an impact. But then at the same time, it was giving me so much stress, and all I could hear is my soul going, is this really what you want to do? Kind of thing, like my heart pulling me this way, my head pulling me this way. And then it got to a point where I was kind of searching, and I found this coach, and we just got talking, and I was like, look, he's my mentor now. I was like, look, I will drop everything if you train me to be a coach and the coaching business. Plus, I've already learned about this stuff for the last 4 years because it's what I absolutely love. But I never made the connection, which seems so easy now, but when you're stuck and spending years and trying to build a business, and you put all that energy and effort in, and you sacrifice seeing your friends and going out and partying, it's a lot harder just to let go of that. But once you do, this is when, now that I found coaching, and it's just what I'm loving.
Thank you for sharing that. Bogdan, did you want to ask something beforehand?
No, actually, I just wanted to ask you, because you have mentioned the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was curious if you consider being rich as something selfish.
No, not at all. I think I've had this thought as well. I think being rich, whatever that means for you, is everyone's right. I think how you use that money, definitely can be selfish, but then isn't it some people, the way when they're poor, they're still selfish?
Yeah.
By having a magnitude of money, does that make you selfish? No, selfish is a trait. I don't think the actual money is selfish. Plus, I mean, just don't have that. I mean, unless you just don't want to chase money, and I think that's fine. I would always chase happiness for sure, but you can also make a big impact if you make a lot of money. So yeah, I don't think it's selfish, no. But also, going back to the stories, actually, we are indoctrinated and trained that making a lot of money is selfish. Like, look at The Simpsons with Mr. Burns. He's like the richest guy in the program, but he is like the evil one with the big nose. And then as kids, when you watch that, it's kind of saying that money is the root of all evil, and you start like, so no, if you start believing all that shit, then you're not going to attract money. Now, am I saying that money's more important than family and love and happiness? No, but just don't think like that, and then you'll attract more of it. So it's like everyone wants a bit more of it, no?
Yeah, exactly. You can't compare money with family or career or anything else. Everything will play a big part in your life, so you have to balance everything, I guess.
And I think that was sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, and you don't take money with you in the graveyard, do you? So.
Exactly.
I think one of our past guests, Sachin, has mentioned a very interesting concept. He was like, look, if you consider money being selfish, I want you to think of this. Let's say that you have $5 or £5, and then you have 500,000 pounds. What's the impact that you can have on your family or on your own life or on whatever you care about with £5 or dollars? And what's the impact that you can have with like $500,000? You see how that's not selfish?
I love this game. Exactly, bro. And like, how is it selfish if you are not going out and you're trying to build a business where you can make an impact on people and you can build schools in foreign lands? And you know, one of the things that drives me is that I feel so grateful to be born where I was born, because I feel like I need to take responsibility for that and ownership of the fact that was out of pure luck. There's kids now suffering with a lack of food. Look what's going on in Syria, and I was just born in the UK with two amazing parents. Like, so I'm taking responsibility to go and earn that money so I can make an impact. And if you think that sounds selfish, then fair enough. I'm sure that they probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast, the people that do think that.
Absolutely. Jack, I wanted to ask you, what do you want to be remembered for or as?
Just a kind, loving soul, I think, honestly. And the impact is the same, just raising the consciousness and awareness of people in this world, just so that they can have a more fulfilled life. I don't necessarily need my name remembered or anything, but just a good human soul who gave his everything would satisfy me a lot. Yeah.
And it's very, very, I'm really amazed by your answer, and I really want to acknowledge you for saying that, because a lot of people, everything they do just because they want to be remembered for something, not for the actual impact that they have done or the energy that they brought into the world. So really big head up for that.
Appreciate that. And it's also interesting because, like, sorry, were you?
No, please go ahead.
Sorry, Bogdan. It's also interesting that, like, let's say, like, I answered that from a place of ego, like, oh, I just want to be remembered for building this $1 billion empire, and like me just being this absolute leader. And it's like, bro, in 4, 5, 6 generations, no one's gonna have a fucking clue who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, even the biggest people in it, like the biggest people you can think of, you know, the Neymar, you know, Pele, for example, the footballer, you know, in 20 generation, in another 2,000 years, or 1,000 or 500, will all these players be remembered? Probably not, bro. But they've had one of the biggest impacts they can have in a sporting career. So if that doesn't make you feel insignificant, which I think is a good thing for your ego, then I don't know what will.
Yeah, I truly agree with you. Totally agree with you. I just wanted to ask you, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night?
Yeah.
You know what? I've been sleeping fucking well recently.
That's a very good sign.
I've just, you know, flat out wake up very early. I do my hustle. I speak to people like you. I read books. I'm tired. But what keeps me up at night? Is that from a place of like, what's my biggest fear kind of thing, or?
Yeah, let's say,
Nothing.
what are you thinking about when you feel insecure, more like, or when you
What do
feel
you
like
worry
you're
about?
not worth it? Yeah.
Something for me that's cropped up quite a lot is loneliness, because when I started my first business, I moved out to a new city. I wanted to, but what I've realized more now that I'm doing something that I love and I'm giving myself permission to rest on the weekends, I'm like, part of me feels a bit lonely. So that doesn't keep me up at night, but it's something that has been on my mind from a vulnerability perspective of loneliness, which I'm still trying to find the balance between building a business and still keeping in touch with certain people. But before I started the coaching business, I was struggling to sleep, funny enough, just because I kept thinking, like, not even really knowing why I was just overthinking things, you know. And I think that's just the case of, like, my soul was like, you know, this isn't right for you, but you're still doing it. But then my logical brain was finding all the reasons why I had to stay in it.
Most likely your ego was doing that.
Yeah, I think so, brother. I definitely think so, man.
You mentioned loneliness. I would like to know your take on this. Would you consider that people have become more lonely ever since social media have come to fruition, or are we not as lonely anymore now?
Good question, man. The honest answer is I don't really know. I
can be both, right?
Yeah, I think if you are feeling lonely, social media will heighten that, because you'll see everyone for what they're doing and how they look, and that will make you feel more lonely. Whereas back in the day, if you didn't have that, you can't really compare your loneliness to anything else. So you would probably just you might not even think that you feel that lonely, because, you know, it's just a lot more human interaction. But then again, I don't want to. Yeah, no, I think that's it.
I can tell you're watching Gary Vaynerchuk by the answer you've given.
Yeah, because I love the fact that, you know, social media has provided so many opportunities for, you know, people to make like hundreds of thousands off their laptop and go travel the world, and it's given a lot more freedom, and that freedom gives people time to think and improve their lives and spend more time with their family. So what I was thinking is, I don't want to slag off social media, but I also know that if you're, you know, feeling insecure and you're looking at all these, like, for us, men that are in amazing shape, making millions of dollars with a beautiful wife and a happy family, and I'm sat here, you know, it can heighten that. But that's why awareness is important, because you can say, oh, one, I'm comparing it, and two, don't compare. You know, what you see on Instagram isn't always true. So
obviously. Yeah, definitely. Jack, obviously it's very subjective, but what do you consider is the meaning of life for us as humans?
Well, I believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? So I might sound a bit cuckoo saying this, but on a spiritual level, it's kind of that you are coming back as human beings to get closer to the energy that we were talking about earlier. But as a human being, I don't know is the honest answer, and I think that's a question that I will never know the answer to. But I'm looking forward to trying to find out.
So would you say that you're hoping that after you die, you're just gonna wake up from a dream and be like, "Well, that was cool"?
Yeah, we're in a what does Elon Musk say? We're in a simulation. Yeah. I'll just wake up next to some G, like, oh shit, that was mad. That was a sick experience. No, I do believe in that, in an afterlife, and your energy will stay. And also, if you hear people that have had the experience of like death and then come back, they have some cool answers that, if you're open to, you're like, whoa.
If you're open, because if you're not, you're gonna be just judgmental towards them, and you're gonna push them away and be like, "No, that can't be true."
Yeah, and that's what Ray Dalio says. He have you guys heard of him?
Of course, yeah.
He So he's the billionaire investor. I think he owns Berkshire and Hathaway, but don't quote me on that. But one of those key points that I took from his book, I only read half. I don't know why I'm telling you that, but I'm just going to tell you that. But he said radical open-mindedness about everything. And that stuck with me. Like if I was to jump on this call and I thought I was somehow super knowledgeable on this certain subject, and you guys came in and said something that was above my knowledge, but I couldn't see it because I wasn't open-minded, then aren't I just giving myself less permission to grow?
Exactly.
So like by putting a ceiling on it, you're just putting a ceiling on your knowledge. By being radically open-minded about everything, like if someone came to me and could prove to me why God didn't exist, then I would be open-minded to that. Mm-hmm. Or the way that I'm doing my business, hell yeah, like come help me out. Like I want to see every aspect.
Yeah, definitely. Jack, I feel like we can go on and on with this talk forever, but I just wanted to ask you the last question before we wrap it up. So just take your time on this. Imagine that you are on your deathbed. So you're about to die, and right next to you is the best version of yourself looking at you. You see and comprehend what you could have become. How would you feel about yourself and about your life in that moment?
Is that from a place of if I was to die now, or?
No, let's say that you have lived your life like you have done and accomplished whatever you wanted to accomplish. How would you feel about
I think that the person I'll be looking at will be a pure reflection of who I am, because I'm going through it all now, and I hope that you can feel that comes from a not an ego place. It's just from a place of like doing my thing. But you know, if I don't know, actually, even saying that, maybe this guy's a fucking Spider-Man, and I'm like, shit, I could have become like that. Then I'd be like, wow, I'd be blown away to my limitations that I've set on myself. So that's a hard one. I'm hoping that I can continue turning into my higher self. That's what I would like to think.
Yeah, I would say that you're going to just be looking into a mirror, because obviously everybody, and we can always just raise the bar higher and higher.
That's it. Like where does it stop?
Exactly.
The thing is, it doesn't stop, because as a human race, we are all getting better all the time. Why are world records always being beaten?
Exactly.
Like because we're, apparently the average height back in like the Athens was like 5'3" for a male. Mm-hmm. Like if we were to go in there now, we'd all be fucking beasts, mate. They'd be like, where are these aliens from? So it's like, I just want to be the best that I can be in today, tomorrow, and the now, until my time is up, and then really that's.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that, Jack. I feel like it's the best time now to let our audience know where they can find you first and foremost, and also what it is that you do and how can you possibly help them if they need help.
Sure. And I also want to acknowledge the fact that you guys asked me some epic questions, and you had me thinking, for sure. You had me thinking, oh snap, what about that one? So I appreciate the good questions, because that's what a good podcast is the host and the questions they ask. But in terms of finding me, you've got loads of free content that I'm producing. I'll probably post it once a day at one Jack Mccloskey, which is JackMcCloskey. In terms of what I do, I help people unlock their authentic greatness by dipping into all the things that we spoke about today. If it's a business they're running, dipping into what energy are they operating at, or maybe it's limiting the business. If it's you're suffering with your mental health, it's like, oh, what stories are you telling yourself? How can I serve you in your journey? And kind of like you guys are asking the right questions to bring up the pain to the surface for it then to be healed. In terms of what I can do for your audience as well, I want to offer, because you guys are amazing hosts, I want to offer out 5 free 30-minute coaching calls with me. And when I say that, if you're someone that can relate to me energetically and you like what I have to say, take action on it, because that 30 minutes can lay a seed for you to fulfill your potential or start you on that journey. So yeah, that's 5 free 30-minute calls as well for you guys, your audience, and you guys. If you ever need it, I'm here for you.
You heard it, guys. Take action on this, because it's a good opportunity for all of you.
Yeah, and thank you so much again, Jack, for giving us the opportunity to talk to you. And thank you to our audience as well for listening. And I'm quite sure that you have gained a lot of knowledge out of this podcast. And until next time, thank you so much for listening, and you stay grateful.